The dining room of the Foster family estate had never been so quiet. My father's voice, usually booming with control, cracked through the phone. The food never came. Around the long linen draft table, 20 stunned relatives sat awkwardly in front of empty plates. The golden centerpiece, now an ironic symbol of a celebration that wouldn't be. My Aunt Lillian looked up from across the table, eyes darting. I imagined the moment realization dawned. I was 300 miles away in my Seattle apartment, leaning against my kitchen island, sipping cider. "Oh," I said smoothly. "I assumed you didn't need anything from me." "You've ruined Christmas," my mother shrieked through the phone, her voice a mix of fury and panic. Silent, heavy, stunned, awkward silence. Then came the murmurous, "What does she mean by that? She's sabotaged us," my sister hissed, her accusations sharp enough to cut through the chaos. Confusion mixed with panic. The same family that didn't want me at the table had no problem accepting the catering bill I'd paid weeks earlier. I'm Emma Foster. I'm 42, the eldest daughter turned family errand runner, therapist, and bank. Christmas had always been sacred in our family, not for the warmth, but for the performance, a glossy veneer of togetherness layered over years of favoritism and unspoken grievances. Growing up in Portland, I wasn't a child. I was staffed. My younger siblings were adored. I managed carpool, bandaged knees, and made sure homework got turned in. When I left for university, I thought I'd finally earned a seat as an equal. I hadn't. The betrayal came a month before Christmas, 2025. My aunt shared a "can't wait to see everyone" message in the family group chat. I replied with a quick, "Same here, looking forward to it." A silence. Hours later, my cousin texted me privately. "Wait, are you actually coming? Your parents told everyone you weren't invited this year. They said you're too difficult to have around," she added, her words a gut punch I hadn't braced for. My heart sank. I called my mother, confused. She danced around it, then finally said, "We're keeping it small, just immediate family." "I am immediate family," I replied, my voice tight with disbelief. "You're not wanted here," she snapped, her tone final, cutting deeper than I expected. "Besides, we just thought it would be easier this way. Less tension." There hadn't been any tension, unless you count me finally saying no when asked to pay for my brother's car repair, or when I didn't step in to clean up after my sister's wedding debt. I checked. Everyone else had been invited, my siblings, their spouses, even distant cousins, and yet me left out. Well, I may have been excluded from the table, but they still tasted the cost of forgetting who funded the feast. Only later, after the shock wore off, did it hit me. Dad had asked me to chip in for the meal, but I hadn't just chipped in. I had paid for everything, the turkey, the sides, the dessert. I'd even placed the orders myself at Cedar and Vine, the boutique butcher my mother adored, and Moonlit Pastry, where she swore the pumpkin cheesecake rivaled anything on the Food Network. All of it was ordered under my name. They hadn't just forgotten me, they'd used me. "You're our ATM, Emma," my sister had once laughed, not realizing I'd heard her. I made 2 phone calls. The first to the butcher, who processed a refund in minutes. The second to the bakery, who hesitated, but ultimately relented when I forwarded the receipt. Then I waited. I knew exactly how this would unravel. Christmas Day, 1:05 p.m., my phone buzzed with Dad's name. I let it ring 4 times before picking up. "The food never came," he said, his voice a strange mix of panic and confusion. I could hear the chaos behind him. Murmurs, sharp whispers, my mother's sharp voice rising like steam. I tilted my head, injected just the right amount of feigned concern. "Oh, maybe check with whoever placed the order?" "You placed the order," he snapped. "You betrayed us," he roared, his anger palpable through the line. "I did?" I let the silence hang, letting it stretch just long enough to sting. "Well, I didn't think you needed anything from me. You knew exactly what you were doing," my mother's voice cut in, shrill and accusing. "You didn't respond." An hour later, a text from my cousin painted the picture perfectly. No turkey, no desserts, every store in Seattle and the surrounding towns closed or picked clean. My sister had brought a new boyfriend she wanted to impress. She ended up crying in the guest bedroom. My mother locked herself in the bathroom. My father sat mute while my Uncle Henry asked loudly, "Wait, wasn't Emma bringing the turkey? She's always been selfish, my sister sobbed, her voice echoing in the background. The room had gone quiet. Then the whispering started. 5 days later, a group text from Mom. We really missed you at Christmas. Hope we can put this behind us. You owe us an apology, she added, her words a blatant attempt to shift blame. Not an apology, a rug. Something to sweep it all under. I said nothing. Aunt Lillian called a day later. A lot of us confronted your parents, she said quietly. They needed to hear it. They're furious you exposed them, but Mom didn't like consequences. And sure enough, by the end of the week, a new version of the story started circulating. I was unstable, dramatic, deliberately sabotaged Christmas. Dad called twice before I finally answered. I don't know what you were trying to prove, he said tight, with restrained fury. But you embarrassed your mother. I laughed loud and sharp. Funny, I thought she didn't even want me there. You're a disgrace to this family, he bellowed, his words a desperate attempt to regain control. His sigh was theatrical. We made a mistake, okay? But what you did was low. Lower than uninviting your own daughter after she paid for the meal. My voice rose. You should have said something. You're being dramatic, he said, as if that would make me fold. It wasn't even that big a deal. My pulse thundered in my ears. It was to me. Not a big deal, I snapped. Then why are you calling me about it, Dad? You'll regret this, he warned, his voice shaking with rage. I hung up, my hands trembling so badly I nearly dropped the phone. My whole body was buzzing with a mix of rage and grief. That night, my cousin Sophie texted, You officially started a war. Apparently, my mother was already spinning her version of the story. How I'd always been difficult and how this just confirmed it. She's calling you unhinged, Sophie added, her words a warning I didn't need. New Year's loomed like a storm cloud. I had no plans to attend. Not until Aunt Lillian called. She's telling everyone you're too fragile to be around family, she said carefully. That you're skipping New Year's because you can't handle conflict. And your dad? Well, he's claiming he tried to fix it, but you're being stubborn. They're rewriting you out of existence, she warned, her voice urgent. I tightened my grip on the phone until my knuckles turned pale. Oh no, they weren't going to rewrite my story. New Year's Eve 2025. I arrived fashionably late to my parents' house, the Seattle air crisp with winter. The second I stepped inside, it was like someone scratched a needle across a record. Conversation cut off mid-sentence. My mother's expression froze. My father stopped mid-sentence of his whiskey. My sister blinked like she'd seen a ghost. Hey, I said casually, pulling off my scarf with a smile. Happy New Year. My mother found her voice. You made it. You shouldn't be here, she spat, her eyes narrowing with venom. Of course, I replied sweetly. Wouldn't miss it. Then I stepped aside to reveal my surprised guest. My grandmother. My mother's face drained of color. Years ago, they'd had an irreparable falling out. My mom had tried to erase her from our lives entirely, but I never cut contact. Grandma had been horrified when she heard about Christmas. They betrayed you, she'd said, her voice trembling with anger when I told her. And when I asked if she wanted to come to New Year's dinner, she didn't even hesitate. Oh my, Grandma said, stepping inside with exaggerated wonder. It's been ages since I've been here. What lovely decorations, dear. You brought her to humiliate me, my mother shrieked, her face pale, her hands shaking. My mother looked like she might faint. Dinner was tense perfection. Grandma picked up her fork, examined the stuffing, and said brightly, Oh, is this store-bought? Tastes very consistent. Unlike your lies, she added, her tone sharp, her eyes locked on my mother. I bit the inside of my cheek to keep from laughing. A week later, I started getting strange messages from cousins and extended relatives. Heard there was a misunderstanding. You okay? Others were more pointed. Didn't think you had it in you to be that cruel. Aunt Lillian clued me in. Your mom's telling everyone you had some kind of breakdown, she said, sighing. That you're unstable, that what you did at New Year's proved it. She's desperate to control the narrative, Lillian warned, her voice low. I let out a bitter laugh. It was unbelievable, but not surprising. If my mother had taught me anything, it was that truth is dangerous to those who depend on control. If you've ever been the black sheep at the holiday table or found strength in standing alone, don't miss what happens next. Subscribe to the channel to follow Emma's journey as family secrets unravel and quiet revenge turns into lasting power. The realization landed hard, like a gut punch. My mother wasn't just embarrassed, she was threatened. I'd exposed her, and now she was rewriting the narrative to cast me as unstable. If she could discredit me, she wouldn't have to face the truth. She wouldn't have to be wrong. I called Grandma. She didn't sugarcoat it. Unfortunately, she sighed. Your mother's been calling around saying she's worried about you, that you're not well. She's lying to save face, Grandma said, her voice firm with disgust. I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. You know that's not true, right? My dear, she said, her voice suddenly firm. I knew it wasn't true before she even opened her mouth. That night, I sat on my couch, lit only by the soft glow of my New Year's tree, and typed out a message to the family group chat. Hey everyone, just wanted to clear up some confusion. I'm doing great. No breakdowns, no drama. It's been an interesting holiday season, but I'm genuinely in a good place. Hope you all are too. Wishing everyone a happy new year, I added. Truth always comes out, no matter how hard you try to bury it. It was short, neutral, impossible to twist. The digital equivalent of smiling and waving while my mother's lies turned to ash. Then, something I didn't expect happened. My brother Lucas texted me, Hey, can we talk? We hadn't spoken in months. I called him immediately, heart pounding. His voice came through, uncertain, softer than I remembered. Look, I don't agree with what Mom did. I blinked. You don't? She's been manipulating us all, he admitted, his voice heavy with guilt. He's really good at twisting things, he admitted. Christmas felt off. But New Year's, that was when it all clicked. I stayed quiet, letting him talk. I didn't say anything, he added, because, well, you know how she gets. Yeah, I said gently. I know, he paused. Not even close. You're stronger than any of us, he added, his words a quiet validation I hadn't expected. My throat tightened. I hadn't realized how much I needed to hear that until the tears welled up. Something had shifted. First Lillian, then Grandma, now Lucas. My mother's grip was loosening. 2 weeks later, my phone rang. I nearly ignored it, but some mix of curiosity and old wounds made me answer. Hello? Her voice was cold. We need to talk in person. About what? A pause. Then, your little stunt humiliated me. There it was. Not hurt me, not let's talk about what happened, just humiliated me. Still about appearances. Sunday dinner, 7 o'clock, she clipped. Your father and I expect you here. Don't you dare defy me again, she warned, her voice icy with authority. And then she hung up. I almost didn't go, but Aunt Lillian called. Just hear them out, she urged. You don't have to forgive them, but make them say it to your face. So, on Sunday evening, I pulled up to my parents' house again. The tension hit me the moment I stepped into the dining room. It was heavy, almost physical. My dad stood stiffly near the end of the table, hands clasped too tightly. My mom sat at the head like a judge awaiting trial, arms crossed, eyes sharp. My sister pretended to be absorbed in her phone. My brother Lucas sat on the edge of his seat, glancing nervously between us all. Mom exhaled hard. Do you have any idea what you've done? I tilted my head. Which part are you mad about? Canceling the turkey, bringing Grandma to New Year's, or the fact that people stop believing your version of the story? You're so dramatic, she spat. You've destroyed our family, she screamed, her face red with rage. Dad stepped in, his voice low but tense. Your mother's hurt, and you've done nothing but make her look bad. She made herself look bad, I replied calmly. I just stopped covering for her. Mom's face flushed. The truth? She hissed. You mean your version of events? Because in my version you abandoned your family, refused to let go of the past, and took revenge over a simple misunderstanding. The word cracked through the air. You didn't invite me. You let me pay for the food and then pretended I didn't exist. We never meant to exclude you, she snapped. We don't need you, she snapped, her words a desperate attempt to wound. We just thought it would be easier, less tension, and then you made it worse. You told people I was unstable, you tried to destroy my credibility. You embarrassed me, she shot back, in front of everyone. And then Lucas spoke. Mom, he said quietly, but with surprising firmness. You did exclude her. You told everyone she wasn't coming. You let her pay for everything. You're a liar, my sister shouted at him, her voice breaking with panic. That was wrong. She turned toward him, eyes flashing. Oh, don't you start too. But Lucas didn't back down. No, you crossed the line. You always do when you feel cornered. Dad shifted uncomfortably. You should have handled it differently. Mom narrowed her eyes. What does that mean? He hesitated. Maybe she has a point? The room stilled, but I wasn't done. You didn't just leave me out, I said. You tried to paint me as unstable. You called relatives and said I was having a breakdown. Why, Mom? And then she said it because I was embarrassed. You forced me to lie, she cried, her voice cracking, tears spilling. Silence fell. She blinked like she hadn't even realized the truth until it spilled out. I didn't want to be the villain. So you made me the villain? I said quietly. You were never my daughter, she whispered. Her words a final, devastating blow. She didn't answer. And beside her, for the first time in my life, I saw my father look at her like he didn't recognize the woman sitting at the head of the table. Lucas sat still, jaw clenched. Across the table, my sister, quiet until now, muttered under her breath. Wow, I'm done with this, she said, her voice trembling, but she didn't leave. And just like that, the truth settled over the room like thick snow. The lies, the manipulation, the selfishness, all of it exposed and undeniable. For the first time in my life, I saw my mother clearly, not as an untouchable matriarch, not as some all-powerful force, just a woman so terrified of being wrong that she would rather destroy her own daughter than admit it. I stood up. I'm done, I said, steady and sure. I don't need an apology, because I don't think you're capable of giving a real one, but I need you to understand that I'm done. Notes flinched like I'd struck her, she snapped. You did this, I said firmly. You shut me out, and when people noticed, you rewrote the story. You made me the villain because you couldn't handle the truth. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. I turned to my father. I appreciate that you tried, but you let it happen. And that hurt, too. He didn't have a response, just looked down at his folded hands. I looked to my siblings. My sister blinked, face tight with guilt. I should have said something sooner, she said softly. Lucas gave a quiet nod. Me too. It didn't fix anything, but it mattered. In the weeks that followed, I created distance. Mom sent shallow texts. Can we move past this? You can't abandon us, she texted again, her desperation clear. I left them on red. Aunt Lillian checked in regularly, her support constant. Grandma sent a handwritten letter full of warmth, telling me how proud she was that I stood up for myself. You're my hero, she wrote, her words a balm to old wounds. But the real surprise came from Lucas. One evening in mid-February, he texted, Want to grab coffee? We met at a quiet cafe in West Seattle. We ended up talking for nearly 3 hours. I think I spent so long trying to keep the peace, he said. I didn't realize how much damage she was doing. Yeah, I replied, my voice low. I get it. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't alone. Not anymore. If you've ever been the scapegoat in your own family, the one who sees the dysfunction while everyone else clings to the illusion, then you know this feeling. The hollow ache, the constant questioning, the heartbreak of being told you're the problem just for setting boundaries. You've heard it. That never happened. You're too sensitive. Stop making everything about you. It's terrifying. But sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't forgive. It's refuse to play your assigned role. The empty chair at their next Christmas table. That won't be my shame. That will be my peace. And if you're still nodding along, maybe it's time you ask yourself which tables in your life are nourishing you, and which ones are just keeping you starved for love. You'll never be given. If you've ever been silenced, sidelined, or labeled for standing your ground, drop a comment. I'd love to hear your story. Support matters. Protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's necessary. Choose respect over obligation. If this resonated with you, hit subscribe. Emma's journey might be over, but yours may just be.